I'm starting the biggest project I ever attempted in Minecraft.
But first, let me explain how I got here.
A few months ago I made this huge fantasy map to give myself endless building possibilities. This map is located on an alien planet called EC14, which is similar to Earth. And as you can see, some biomes really look out of another world. The scale of this is so large I cannot cover everything in one video.
So I'm starting a series. Every video I will make a different civilization out of my own imagination, sometimes taking inspiration from places that exist. And I will also create an entire lore. In this video I will make possibly the biggest volcano in Minecraft. Title. Alright, so first let's look at a map. As you can see in the middle, as you can see in the middle, there's this big island with continents all around it with different biomes.
To make the terrain, I used World Painter, which is a software that lets you view your world from very far above and create terrain like a literal god. While it lacks precision, it's still very customizable because you can paste in anything you want, like trees, rocks, and truly anything.
In today's video, we'll focus on this, the volcano island. It is at the core of the planet and it has some very important lore I will explain later.
Before that, I need to jump in the game and tweak the terraforming because, as I said before, World Painter is a great tool, but it's definitely not precise enough. So modified a bit the terrain with a tool called GoBrush. This was to give the terrain less boring shapes. And after that I used GoPaint to paint the terrain with different blocks, creating a sort of gradient and adding more contrast. Then I started painting some custom spruce trees to create a dense forest. After this was done, it was time to jump in the crater because this is where the interesting stuff happens. And this is when you realize the scale of the volcano. I have maximum render distance and I still can barely see the limits of the crater. The diameter of the crater is about 400 blocks and the tallest point is at height level 377. So not at the build limit because I'm planning to add more things above. This makes this volcano possibly one of the biggest in the entirety of Minecraft.
Lore time! So EC14 used to look like this. A big, wide, huge, enormous, gigantic, big continent. Until a day a huge eruption occurred which was so powerful that it made the entire continent scatter into pieces. But how did a single eruption start this? I can hear the geologist screaming at me, so let me invent a magical element which can justify this nonsense.
Vibranium! This is a highly unstable element which can cause catastrophic chain reactions, and it is found right in the crater of the volcano. Some parts crystallized, but most of it is still a liquid and very much dangerous. The parts which crystallized can be used as a source of energy. However, this element is greatly unstable and if not managed correctly can destroy anything. Anyway, let's look at what we've done so far.
So with that, the terrain is done and it's time to start working on the first civilization of the project, a fishing city.
And for this, I found the perfect location. Located on the northern side of the island, there is this perfect cliff with an island nearby, ideal for building the town. So at first I didn't really have any plans, so I decided to do a waterfall because the terrain looked like it was built for that. This gave me the idea to make a house on stilts. This is justified because the terrain is fragile and this town is located on the northern side of the island, so they built on stilts to avoid humidity. I really liked how they came out, so I started working on some more similar houses. For this village, I want to go full fantasy. You can see I got some inspiration from Asian and South American architecture. My original plan for this city was to make it a city of farmers. However, since there is not much space for fields nor anything else, I decided to turn it into a fishing city. Let's go back to the lore and talk about the history of this civilization. They're one of the native populations on this island, but they're the only one that still lives here today. All the others fled to other parts of the world because of reasons we're going to talk about in a future video, leaving them alone in a big island. Despite its old history, this village never got to develop much. It stayed rather modest inside and kept fishing to sustain itself. Unsurprisingly, a lot of young people left the community for more opportunities in more developed civilizations, and very few remained. Back to the building process. After I made all the house models, I started pasting them on the lower part of the cliff and across the water on the island to create the city, and to avoid repetitions, I rotated them so that they faced different directions. Then I made 3 suspension bridges to connect the mainland with the island, and also added stairs to connect them. After that, it was time to link all the parts of the city with some paths and some smaller bridges. The city looks great, however there's still many empty spots, so it's time to add greenery, and I did not hesitate. I really filled the entire place with trees and bushes, which adds so much and makes this look like a village you could find in the Amazon forest. I also added carts and stalls in the city to fill the last empty spots. You might also have noticed that I changed the biome in which the city is in. This might look strange because the rest of the island is just a single biome, however this will change once I add new civilizations. So let's start working on the highlights of the city.
Didn't you forget anything? Oh yeah, the harbor, that's useful. You're welcome. Can you stop interrupting, please? Are you kidding? Do you even know how much the train tickets costed me to get here? Only from one line? I don't even pay my cameraman.
So the strait between the island and the city is a very strategic place for harbor because it is protected from winds. However, it limits the size of the boats. Since the entire community is based on fishing, the harbor is the commercial half of the city, where everyone gathers to trade. For this reason, you can also find stalls on the docks. I also built a lighthouse to guide the boats into the harbor. So most of the city is now done. The only part missing is the higher part of the island. It's lore time again, baby! As I mentioned before, many young people left the city, leaving the elderly alone. So the people who remained developed a very strong religious bond, and the top of the island was dedicated to religious activities. Firstly, I started making a kind of an open sanctuary, consisting of a circular arena with columns on the sides. After that, I linked it to the path and added stairs to get to the top. And now, let's make the temple, which is by far going to be the biggest and tallest building of the entire town. I opted for a circular base with some extruding blocks on the sides. First I made the foundations, trying to blend them into the terrain with a gradient, and then after some detailing I made the first floor of the building, which is elevated above columns. This is a style I already used in a past project with a different color palette. It is a kind of building I really enjoyed making, and I'm happy to reuse it again. I raised the buildings on the sides on different heights and with different roofs to create towers, and at the very top I added a small tower to enjoy that view. To finish off, I painted the dome with different blocks to add variety, added large windows with fences, and more details to fill blank spaces.
And finally, because the person currently holding this camera asked me to build How to Train Your Dragon in Minecraft, I decided to do a compromise and build a phonics statue instead.
I found this design online, I changed it a bit, put it in the middle of the sanctuary and justified it in the lore by something like they once saw a marriage of a phoenix and since then they praise it as the defender of their city.
Or something like that. I don't care, the video is already too long and the build is over. So enjoy the cinematic. Thank you for watching. I had so much fun making this one. If you liked it and you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Whoa. What was that?